Welcome to the Startup Grind. I wanted to ask you about building teams, another thing that you're kind of famous for. And you have this quote, building great teams is what great founders do. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that.
So I fundamentally have a belief system that a company becomes the people it hires. Business plans are largely irrelevant. A company almost always becomes the people it hires early. By the time you hire 10 or 15 people, it's too late to change the gene pool. Two things happen. First, the team you have interviews the new candidates. They want to hire in their own image. It's very hard for them to break away from that. The second thing is the people who want to come work for you judge your company by who's interviewing them. And so it becomes very hard to change the trajectory of a company after you get to a certain critical mass. And really great people outside say, is this the team I want to join? Are they as good as me? And so it's very hard to change the gene pool significantly. And because of this, as well as sort of cultural norms get established, it's very hard to change the trajectory of a company. And that's why I always say a company becomes the people it hires. And for really great founders, the place I'd spend time is hiring people who are much better than me, who are real stretches to go after. People say, oh, I'll never get that guy. That's a 5% chance. And I say, that's a 5% chance of changing the trajectory of your company. Now, isn't that worth a few hours of your time? So nothing is too far a stretch for me. It never was. I mean, look, if you look at when we started Sun, I was in my 20s. I recruited Andy Bechtolsheim. Here's a funny story. He actually tried to convince me to get a license to the Sun technology for $10,000. And I said, no, I want the goose that laid the golden egg. I don't want the golden egg. And I convinced him to drop his PhD. He was probably 6-9 months away from finishing it. I sold my heart out till I convinced him to join me. Then we went after Bill Joy, and we did the same thing. We got him to drop his PhD. Right?
He was at Berkeley, right?
He was at Berkeley. He could have had any job he wanted.
Yeah.
And we sold. And then we, hired Eric Schmidt at Sun early. We hired.
Pretty good hire.
I think of the first 15 people we hired, there were probably 10 companies started with more than $1 billion of market cap. I used to say I love collecting great talents, people smarter than me. And once we have them, there doesn't have to be a reason to have them. Just that they're really smart and we collect them. And I saw that approach in the early days of Google. Larry and Sergey definitely had that approach of hiring really smart people. I don't know how many of you remember the billboards on 101 said, if you could solve this puzzle, apply it to Google. I think that's key. And I'm never satisfied by the quality of a team, ever. And it's probably the one thing people get bugged at me for pushing them too hard to even keep stretching the quality of the teams they built, to the point where I'm truly irritating.